Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. And what an insane night of playoff hoops it was. There were two games that were very interesting for very different reasons. First game was Indiana versus the Knicks in game one of their series. That was a classic all the way down to the wire matchup with some crazy moments everywhere. Basically, every game the Knicks have played so far in the playoffs. And then following that, we had game two of Minnesota versus Denver, which I think was basically everybody's pick to be the most interesting and exciting series of this second round. On one side, you have the Nuggets, the reigning champions led by Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world, and on the other side, you've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the bigger surprises of the season. They've got a rising superstar in Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, who's going to win DPOY, a great supporting cast surrounding those guys, as well as a huge feather in their cap by just annihilating the Suns in their first round series, sweeping them when many people, me included, picked the Suns to win or just said it was going to be a really tough matchup. Didn't look at all difficult for them, and they move into this series facing a Nuggets team that was a little bit shaky against the Lakers. It felt like there was real upset potential here, with predictions being pretty split in terms of who was going to win, although I think everybody agreed this was at least going to be a 6, if not 7 game series. Game 1 came along and the Timberwolves got a win, stealing game 1 in Denver, winning by 7 points, making a statement behind the play of Anthony Edwards, who was unstoppable. Rudy Gobert, great defensively, really the whole team. Cat stepped up in a big way. It was a big performance from the Wolves, and I think if you're a Wolves fan, if they had just split the series 1-1 going back to Minnesota, you would have been over the moon happy. Like, they showed a lot in that game 1. If they came in here and lost game 2, nobody would have been upset, especially because Rudy Gobert did not play in this game because his child was just born today. Congratulations to him and their family. It resulted in him missing the game, and he's really important to what they did in game 1, what they've done all season. If they went ahead and lost this game against the Nuggets, even if it was in kind of dominant fashion, nobody would have been surprised, and I think ultimately if you're a Wolves fan, it's something you can live with, except not only did the Wolves not get destroyed, they went into Denver and in game 2 embarrassed the reigning champions. Denver started off with the first 2 points of the game, then the Wolves tied it up, and Denver never got a lead the rest of the night. By the end of the first quarter, they were down 8, which wasn't too crazy. I mean, the Nuggets have spent this whole playoff run so far going down by a lot in the first quarter, only to make a run and come back. The comeback never came in this game. The Wolves kept building to the point where they were up 26 at halftime, the biggest home halftime deficit the Nuggets have ever had as a franchise in a playoff game. They end up going up by as much as 32 points, and Denver, for only a couple minutes, the rest of the game brings it within 20, ends up losing by 26 points, 106-80. Being held at 80 points when you're the Denver Nuggets out of all teams is absurd. The Minnesota Timberwolves, you want to talk about a defensive masterclass. This was one of the most dominant defensive efforts I have ever seen watching basketball. I saw a lot of people say that this was the most impressive defensive game they've ever seen. I don't know if I'm going to go that far because I need to think about it, but in the moment, it's probably in the top 5. This was one of the most shocking results I've seen for a game in a long time. The only thing I can probably compare it to is back in 2022 when the Phoenix Suns went ahead and got decimated by the Mavericks in Game 7 at home. This felt similar to that, where they never had a chance, the Nuggets. They were just getting hounded on the defensive end. The Timberwolves were sending so much pressure at the ball handlers, whether it was Jamal Murray, it was Nikola Jokic. They tried Aaron Gordon for a little bit, Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Reggie Jackson. It didn't matter who had the ball in their hands. They were getting swarmed by defenders the length of Minnesota. They were poking away passes with ease. The Nuggets were just thrown out of their comfort zone, which basically never happens with Denver. They always feel like they're very organized, they're very in tune with each other. Was not the case at all tonight. The Wolves were blocking every shot. They were making everything contested. I don't think in the first half the Nuggets got a single uncontested look, maybe like 2 the entire first 24 minutes. They were sending relentless pressure. Wings like Gilgeous-Alexander, Walker, and Jay McDaniels were just impossible for the ball handlers to get around, get downhill pressure. Nothing was operating for the Denver Nuggets. The Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray pick and roll, which has been unstoppable, was basically non-existent. Jokic continued to turn the ball over a lot like he did in game 1, just has not figured out this pressure from the Wolves, and both he and Jamal Murray really struggled in this game. For Jokic, he went out there and had just 16 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. Like, it looks good on the surface, but 5 of 13 shooting. He ended up having 4 turnovers, a minus 16 on the game. Jamal Murray, just 8 points, shot 3 of 18, 0-4 from 3. There were more moments where Jamal Murray threw a heating pack onto the court, which he did in this game because he was so frustrated, the amount of times he hit a 3 in this one. It was completely absurd. Aaron Gordon, a minus 33. Michael Porter Jr., 1 of of 7 from 3. Nothing worked for the Nuggets. Michael Malone tried to make some adjustments. They just could not escape this relentless, non-stop pressure and defense from the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were at 100 on the effort scale the entire night. And again, they did all of this with the probable defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert not even seeing the court tonight. In his absence, the Wolves got massive performances from Naz Reid, who had 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 blocks, and Karl-Anthony Towns, who had a lot of questions surrounding him coming into the season. There were rumors he could have been dealt this offseason, but instead, he has stepped up tremendously, was unbelievable defensively tonight, has been way better than he's ever been in the past this season. Great offensively, too, in this one, 27 points, 12 boards, an assist, a steal, 2 blocks, shot 10 of 15 from the floor. Anthony Edwards, as usual, was doing it on both ends, 27 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, shot 65% from the field, hit an MJ shrug after 1 bucket. He was putting on a clinic in the mid-range, whether it was turnaround jumpers, pull-ups, attacking downhill. There was basically no resistance against him, against Cat. Wide open threes for a guy like Nikola Jokic Walker and Naz Reid, both of them hit 4 threes. This was not only a defensive masterclass from Minnesota, but the offensive execution was plenty enough to go ahead and turn this into a blowout, which brings me to the Nuggets defense, which has been very unimpressive a lot of times in the early going in these playoffs, especially in this game. It was abysmal. Jamal Murray, not only is he really struggling offensively in the early going of this postseason, but not at all a factor on the defensive end. They have been targeting him. The Lakers targeted him last series. Then with Nikola Jokic, who stepped up a lot defensively last year in their title run, this was one of the worst defensive games I've seen him play in a while. I don't know if he was just exhausted because of the relentless pressure Minnesota was throwing at him and the Nuggets in general, but he was really lazy on a lot of the closeouts, was not getting a lot of contests. Down low, he was getting blown by continuously, not able to stop guys in the post, giving up offensive rebounds. It was a really disappointing effort from him. From the Nuggets as a whole, they went out there and again, just completely got embarrassed on their home court to go down 0-2 to a very good team. It's not like this is some random squad that just surprised them in the first 2 games. This Minnesota squad people already thought could beat them, even if the Nuggets went up 2-0 in the first 2 games, if it was tied 1-1. Now down 0-2, going back to Minnesota, where the Wolves have been great this season with all the momentum, and the Nuggets only getting more and more banged up with Jamal Murray dealing with a calf injury, and Reggie Jackson left this game hobbled. He had to be helped off with a calf soreness. We'll see what happens there. Things may be getting dire for Denver. I was not expecting this. I definitely thought the Minnesota Timberwolves could win this series. I only picked the Nuggets to win in 7. And I said a lot of times that I was tempted to pick the Wolves in that series preview video, but I don't even think the most optimistic Wolves fan would have told you that they could come out here and not only win the first 2 games in Denver, but game 2 without Rudy Gobert, give the Nuggets one of the worst losses they've had in this recent era. It was an unbelievable, stunning result that gives me a lot of questions about whether the Nuggets can even bounce back with the injuries, with their inconsistent play so far. Maybe the Nuggets just aren't poised for a repeat. Maybe the Wolves are going to come out here and just annihilate them and prove a lot of doubters wrong like they did against Phoenix. I would be surprised by it. I do think Denver fights back, but I got to admit, this doesn't look great for the reigning champions. This is the first time over the last year or so that the Nuggets have looked extremely mortal. In fact, this is the first time outside of the 2011 Lakers, where a reigning champion has went down 0-2 in a playoff series with both games being at home. This is nearly uncharted waters, and it's the Denver Nuggets who felt, again, like a team that was really hard to beat. Minnesota has just made them look trivial so far. They have to come out with some real energy in Game 3, stop with the going down nearly double digits in every first quarter, lock it from the get-go. Jamal Murray has to be way more like the playoff riser he's been in the past. Jokic has to play like the best player in the world. They have to completely shift the energy, otherwise this series might be over as soon as it started. We'll see if the Nuggets are able to bounce back, but for the moment, the Wolves are up 2-0 and look way, way better with no sign of slowing down anytime soon. Then in the earlier game, we had Pacers versus Knicks, which was, like I said earlier, way closer. This one came down to the wire, and I think this series is going to be way closer in general than people are giving it credit for. I've seen way too many people say that the Pacers are just going to get easily swept. They're going to put up a fight, and they did exactly that in this game. They did end up losing, but even still, it was not for a lack of effort because they built up a number of leads in this one. They led by 9 in the fourth quarter, and they had a chance pretty late to try and go ahead and hit a shot to take the lead. Unfortunately, Miles Turner got called for an offensive foul moving screen. screen, which was a number of calls that people were pretty upset about late in this game. There were a lot of controversial ones. There was a kickball that wasn't really a kickball. There was a foul that was called, which ended up getting overturned, but it cost Indiana their challenge, and it never really seemed like a foul. There was an away from the play foul on an inbound for the Knicks that led to Jalen Brunson getting a free throw, and then when he got fouled again, it put the lead up to 4 rather than 3, making it a 2-possession game. Way harder for the Pacers to try and come back from that one. So there was some controversy, but in the end, the Knicks do end up getting the win. And of course, they were led by none other than Jalen Brunson. Ended up with 43 points, including 21 in the fourth quarter. This is either his third or fourth straight 40-point game. He's now getting in conversations with like Michael Jordan in terms of playoff scoring. 54% from the field. Only hit 1 3 in this one. Went perfect from the free throw line, though, 14 of 14, including the clutch ones to go ahead and ice this. Unbelievable stuff. We're seeing the rise of a real star guard in this league in Jalen Brunson. I've mentioned it a number of times. It's crazy how quickly he has turned from, oh, this might have been a bit of an overpay when the Knicks signed him, to now one of the best value contracts in the league, doing some obscene stuff here in the playoffs. I never would have pictured Jalen Brunson being this good. It's been incredible to watch. One of my favorite players in the entire NBA at this point to go ahead and see on a day-to-day basis. I'm really glad the Knicks continue to go further in the playoffs, because I'm not ready to stop seeing Jalen Brunson hoop for the next few months until next season returns. Dante DiVincenzo, 25 points from him. OG Anunoby, 13 points, great defense. Josh Hart, 24, 13, 8 assists, 3 steals, a block, 4 offensive rebounds. I tweeted this out, but I don't think I've ever seen Josh Hart go any less than 150%. It feels like he just really never gets tired. The perfect Tom Thibodeau player, played every single second of this game. And yeah, like I said, they end up going ahead and getting a win. For the Pacers, Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam were their best players in this one. TJ McConnell was great as well. Not a lot from Tyrese Haliburton, who, like in the Bucks series, was pretty unaggressive. Just 6 shots in this one, went 2 of 6 for 6 points. Did have 8 assists, 4 steals, 3 turnovers. It was a very pedestrian game from the guy that's supposed to be the star player of this team. Hasn't done a lot in the playoffs so far, has had trouble getting to his spots, and he really, I do think, is still struggling from that injury he's been dealing with this entire second half of the season. But if they want to go ahead and extend the series, at least make it interesting, Tyrese Haliburton is going to have to take way more shots, be way more aggressive, and give the Pacers more than 6 points and 6 shots on a night. But yeah, with all that being said, those are my thoughts on the games from tonight. Let me know down below in the comments what your takeaways were. What do you think about Nuggets Timberwolves? Do you think the Wolves are just going to go out there and decimate the Nuggets for the rest of the series? Do you think Denver can bounce back? And for this Pacers-Knicks series, who do you have winning this one and in how many games? I appreciate you all watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell as always so you don't miss out on future uploads. Going to be continuous videos throughout the rest of these playoffs. I appreciate you all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.